It's time for the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Each week, Trading Stocks Made Easy demystifies stock trading and investing so you can profit big. And now, here's the host of Trading Stocks Made Easy, the wealthy investor, Tyrone Jackson.
Hey, it's Tyrone Jackson, and welcome back to Trading Stocks Made Easy. You know, the podcast that teaches you how to demystify the stock market so that you can profit big. And this is podcast episode number 3. I'm so happy to have live in the studio someone I've known for 20 plus years right now. That's right. Actor model Randy Hernandez is joining us here today to talk about his history trading stocks, buying and selling online, in addition to his acting and modeling career and having kids. So, Randy, I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Tyrone. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
All right. Good to see you. All right. Let's waste no time because you've been trading in the stock market now for how long?
It's been about 5 years, actually.
5 years trading?
5 years trading.
Okay.
So started out with you 5 years ago, just beginning very slowly, and it's now moved into what we might call today is kind of like part of my income, part of my daily lifestyle, part of my way of working, as long with everything else I do.
Well, very good. Now, I always try to teach people on this podcast that, hey, listen, no one is born a millionaire. No one's born an instant stock market trader. So we're going to go back into your history. Raised by a single mom. Tell us your story, just in general.
Yeah, pretty much. Born in New York, raised in D.C. For my formative years, as they call it. Right after high school, jumped into the military. Air Force, did that for 6 years, jumped right into New York after going to college back home in D.C., then transferred over to New York and started my career in entertainment, which has been a wonderful, wonderful ride in New York. You and I met that long ago at a class.
No, it was actually an audition for a television series.
An audition for a television series, right. Yeah. And so
over,
that's how...
Over at HBO.
At HBO, we did something, and I remember, and then as years went by, you got into this... You were just dabbling into research in the stock market, and I think I still remember opening up an account, and back then it was stressful, different way of thinking. Our age is showing that the computers were just coming into play with AOL, dial-up. So all of that going on, but everyone was jumping on this bandwagon of trying to make money in the stock market way back then. And fell by the wayside for me. The stress alone was killing me because back then you had to run back to our computer. You need to be on a computer all the time. Like you had to watch it all day long. It wasn't what we're doing now. But then it came about moving out to Los Angeles with my family and my then young son and him growing up here. And you kind of kept at this and parlayed this into covered call writing and options and getting back into this with, as we all have, with a little bit of apprehension, as they say. It was great. Jumped right in to start learning and listening. But it's funny, 3 months, I still didn't open up my TD Ameritrade account because that feeling like those commercials was like that you see over TD Ameritrade, the parent there with the button with his finger on it goes, okay, Mr. Yang, push the button. It's like, ping, he's like, he just made his first trade. It's definitely nerve-wracking. It can be.
Now let's talk about getting started trading. What is that fear about? I just want people. You're a successful stock market trader, as far as I'm concerned. But let's talk about that fear.
I think the fear, what you once talked about, is the fear of failure. But it's really the fear of unknowing, the fear of not being financially educated. The fear of not knowing how to manage one's money, one's wealth, which you see in movies on Wall Street. You hear about stuff, you hear it in the news, stock market, ticker prices, this and that. You don't know about it because you've never studied it before. And your approach is to show people one facet of the stock market of how to make money in this stock market world, because there's a million ways to make money in the stock market, and you're showing us just a couple. And the one that you're showing us is really the end-all and beat-all for me to like eliminate stress and to make money on your own terms, but to consistently make money in the stock market starting with selling covered calls and then selling and buying options.
Absolutely. We're going to get to that in a moment. I talk a lot about, because what I've seen with a lot of my students is this idea of a millionaire mindset. Like you have to expect good things for yourself financially.
Right.
You have to want good things for yourself financially.
Yeah.
You have to get in the habit of having money work for you.
Right.
When I say millionaire mindset, which you hear me say all the time, what does that mean to you, and how has your mindset shifted over the past 5 years?
I think it's just a positive affirmation of the millionaire mindset is that, those numbers of millionaire and thousands of dollars is really not far out of reach. Anyone can do it. You just have to have the mindset to see how it works. And we're not talking from 0 to $1 million, but the potential over years to hit a certain goal. Now that I've been in this 5 years, to me, that $1 million is not really so far-fetched. It's not that much of a fantasy. It can be quite a reality, actually, if you stick to the basic program of what you're doing when you're selling and trading covered calls and options. So to me, that's it's a goal to hit. It's a millionaire is a feeling of freedom that you can have for yourself and your family and your lifestyle.
Excellent. Now, we're going to talk about, we got to go to commercial here for a second, but when we come back, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the trades that you do, your favorite trades, your favorite stocks to trade throughout the past 5 years, and where you see yourself going with this in the next 5 years.
Right.
Okay, so more with Randy Hernandez when we come back.
You're listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Want to learn more about what stocks to trade and invest in today's market? Visit thewealthyinvestor.net. That's thewealthyinvestor.net. And sign up for Tyrone Jackson's free stock market success email list. Our next free stock trading teleseminar is only days away. Visit thewealthyinvestor.net today. Now back to the Wealthy Investor, Tyrone Jackson.
Yes, do go to thewealthyinvestor.net and make sure you sign up for our free newsletter, because our next online teleseminar is just around the corner, and I want to be able to help you make money in the stock market. Okay, we're back with my very, very special guest again, Randy Hernandez, still talking about stock market trading. Just a brief recap. You were actor, model, very successful on the print side. I remember I would walk into 34th Street Penn Station in New York, the big poster of you up there. And all of that kind of stuff. But you really took, what really surprised me is once you got past your fear, we were talking about fear earlier.
Right.
Once you got past your fear, I don't think of you as someone who's not trading in the stock market on a monthly or daily basis.
Right.
So let's start off with the first trade that I always teach people, because it really proves that, like, wow, whether stocks go up or down, you can make money, which is covered call writing.
Right.
So what are your feelings and thoughts on covered calls these days?
Covered call writing these days is just an easy, great way to make money. Residual income. It's, as I would call it, it's really ABCD, very fundamental way of buying and selling covered calls. Of course, we're selling covered calls, but it's very easy. It's guaranteed, and people have that problem. I think is really the big thing. It's guaranteed income immediately. You do it, the next day you see the money in your account. T+1.
And just for those of you who are not familiar with it, a covered calls is when you take 100 shares of a stock and you sell an option to someone you don't know, and they pay you for the right to put that stock on hold, and that income that's generated is called a premium. Right. So if I had to ask you today, what's your favorite stock to covered call write on, what would you say?
Today, at this given moment, I guess Under Armour has been pretty fun. Mm-hmm. Disney's great. Disney's great. We always want to look at American Express, but they're good to. They have their moments. Those are really fun stocks that are always going to be high premiums, as we call it. They have good premium prices. It's always something to have on the side. It's always your go-to stocks to have covered calls for residual income.
Now, when you're selling covered calls, do you prefer, because you have been burned a couple of times. I was like, Randy, don't buy that stock.
Now we have it recorded and bringed up. That's great.
Right. I'm like, don't cover call right. You go, T, the premiums are so good. I'm like, the fundamentals, right? Okay. But I noticed you cited a lot of Dow stocks these days.
Sure.
So does that mean you've calmed down and you just stay within the Dow stocks?
No, not necessarily. As you get more as savvy and educated, you start I think it's a confidence booster. You definitely get a little bit more confident in your research, how you taught us, how we look for, the picture, 4 quarters of top line revenue. Like now I know how to read Yahoo Finance reports and Dow reports. It's easy to look at a company and what they do and who are the 5 big players that are investing in this company too, like millions of dollars, and how does that translate for us riding their coattails, as we say, to get that small piece of the action. So that's been a confidence booster. And yes, as we mentioned, the words that we're going to, let's do it, Netflix. So, had a lot of fun with Netflix, had a lot of sad times with Netflix. But honestly, on the upside, I've had more fun with Netflix than bad.
Yes.
Netflix has paid huge amounts of money on covered calls, and it's kind of something you always have, and Netflix isn't going anywhere, but that's also been great. Now, things that we find in class, like when someone comes in, for instance, they buy Exxon, and we've never spoken about Exxon, like we know to stay away from petroleum.
Right.
It's just not in our wheelhouse of covered call writing and residual income. So there's a format I feel that you give that is very safe. When anything goes wrong in the market's going up and down and staying the same, there's always back to the basics that you taught. You can always go back to the basics. And for me, that's a very safe place to be until things, as we say, like, cool out or relax a little bit. When in doubt, go back to plan A, and you're set.
Now, you also trade, because this happens to everybody in the Wealthy Investor Program, you trade in several accounts. There's like your main account. Do you trade your retirement account?
I do trade my IRA.
Now, in your IRA, covered calls is your primary strategy, right?
Covered calls in the IRA is a primary strategy, which is a really safe bet to do it. It's easy. It's safe. It's something that you can just do once a month and forget about it, which is also, I think, very safe for me. Like, makes me sleep better at night. But yeah, absolutely. By all means, you should always be trading in your IRA. It's almost, you can't. Right. You cannot do it. You have to do it.
Well, one of the reasons I have this program, because I think if more people understood the power of, I teach a strategy called the sweep, right? Where you're just bringing money in every single month into your retirement account.
Right.
2-part Dow, 1-part growth. You remember that? So you're not trading a lot of stocks, really only 3 stocks, collecting dividends and taking in this guaranteed money. It's a dynamite strategy. Right. But I prefer that you do that in your IRA, and you like that.
I love it.
Right.
It's great. It's safe. It as you would say, it might be boring, but it still keeps giving you back more and more. And it's funny. I talk about it when my good friend that was a broker, he was handling my money, and I remember taking my IRA from him. And he was like, "Oh, you sure you're going to do this? Be careful." And I go, and good friend, I've known him as long as I've known you, probably a little longer. And I did it. I still remember clearly, I took it over in November 2010. And by December 2010, let's call it 60 days later. He had made me maybe 2% a year on my IRA.
Right.
The 60 days later, I made 30% on my IRA.
That is correct. People don't believe that. When you tell them, they don't believe that you can do that.
30% on that. And then when he saw that, he now calls me asking me about options and covered calls.
Yes. I teach people all the time that, there's that financial education again, if you just learn how to do it.
Right.
The number one question people always ask me is like, first of all, they think what we do in the Wealthy Investor Program is day trading.
Right.
We are not at a computer all day.
Right.
We trade a couple of times a month, 3-4 times a month.
That's it.
Guaranteed income comes in. How much time do you spend researching a stock? Another question everyone wants to know.
I think not so much as you would think. There's only so much you can research. I mean, everything you can find on all these major websites, from Yahoo, to Google, everything else. You can still do the same research, but it doesn't take long or much to research. So I maybe a few times a month. We deal with the same stock, so we already know about the company. It's just good to check in. You watch the news, something comes up, and you can just take a look and see what's going on. But we're really concerned with our 4 quarters of top-line revenue.
Yes.
So that's really important. And you always want to, of course, something that you pushed later on as you become more advanced in the class that you teach is when we're talking about, we have to know when our the dividends come out, and you have to know when companies are now releasing their financials.
Right.
So that's really important. So that's very important to be ready for that.
And most people don't realize that if we're trading mostly Dow stocks, we really have to watch that annual revenue. We don't really have to check quarter to quarter because Disney's pretty stable.
They're consistent.
Yes, they're pretty stable. And now let me ask you, out of the non-Dow stocks, you mentioned Netflix. Are there any other stocks? How do you feel? What's the one that Elon Musk, what's that stock I tell everyone to stay away from? But I think you did pretty well in it. The electric cars.
Tesla.
Tesla.
Oh, yes.
Did you own that for a little while?
Yes, I did. Tesla is the stock that keeps on giving.
Even though I say don't buy it.
The technology is there. So a perfect example, as you saying, researching companies.
Right.
They're not a Dow component stock yet.
Right.
But the company, the person behind it, he's solar. He's like the entrepreneur of the world. This car is here to stay. Okay. I mean, I'm a car buff as it is, but Tesla's been good to me. I kick myself every time. There's been a downside of it when he advanced the new model of his cars. But it's funny when we think about the waiting period. A 6-month waiting period in the stock market as you're waiting their stock to retrace, that's non-Dow, like Tesla.
Right.
It seems like an eternity.
Yes.
But when it does, return, it returns with huge numbers. So you just have to, again, be careful and do your research, but I feel more confident because what I know now. Mm-hmm. If I would have gone into, like, if someone said, "Oh, buy Tesla," and I bought it and it dropped 30 points, I'd be pretty angry at someone. But now I see where the company's moving and the technology is advancing at such an extreme rate. It's I'm not in Tesla now,
right,
but I constantly keep an eye on it. I always check in with it. It's on my watch list, as we call it.
Right.
But no, Tesla is something to consider.
What's the ticker symbol for people who want to follow?
TSLA.
Right. Now, you have a little bit more of an appetite for higher risks. You do like those stocks that are a little bit more higher risk. I myself am just a little bit more conservative with what I own and trade.
Right. Well, you talk about volatility. So we can talk about, when you talk about volatility, and there's a lot of volatility in the market, and the market is bullish, then there are some things that you can get into, I think, after a certain amount of time studying with you and having that confidence. But yeah, like I said, I have my go-to list. I have my categories of different stock lists that I go to, and I check in with them. Remember, so we can call it A, B, and C. C might be the more volatile, but when volatility is there, it's good to check in with that and just take a little bit of not everything, but you take a little bit of chunk and go in there, and you can get out. Remember, we're dating them. We're not marrying them.
No,
right.
It's just a date. Now, let's just talk about some of the money, because just for people who might not know what we mean by a volatility trade. A volatility trade is when we buy a stock, and we normally buy it 15 minutes before the market closes.
Correct.
If you take the wealthy investor approach.
Right.
We'll buy it, and we'll say to the software in our account, when this stock moves $1 or 50 cents, quickly sell it.
Right, trigger it out.
So if you have 1,000 shares and the stock moves $1, the software triggers you out. You make $1,000.
Right. Get an email. It's all good.
Right.
Sitting on the beach. Exactly.
Right. You're out making money, and the stock market is
working for you.
It's just churning.
Right.
3 stocks that you have loved volatility trading. Now, I just want to say before you reveal them, it doesn't mean that there's volatility in them now, because it stops and starts.
Sure.
But can you think of your favorite 3 stocks to volatility trade?
It's definitely Tesla.
Yes.
Definitely Netflix. What I like,
Hold on. Do you take a 50-cent increase, 75 cents, $1, $1.50? What's your favorite?
My favorite's at least $1.
Okay.
There's a lot of moving parts here at the time of how the stock is moving, how the volatility is playing. So when we do our back testing, as you teach us, if the stock is moving easily $2 a day, for me, that's a little bit more. I might stay in it and kind of take a little bit more money with that. But if you can see that the stock is moving 50 cents a day, why not take 50 cents? So really, that's going back to that research question you had. It's really all relative of how that stock is moving. And if you do 10 minutes of your research and back testing, you can be comfortable with how you want to play that stock. So for me, it really depends what the stock is doing and how the volatility is playing. But no doubt about it, I've definitely hung in there with, say, Netflix, and I said, well, let me hold off one more day, and it jumped $6. And I was like, wow. Now that's luck. That's not as common as most people would imagine, to think like, oh, I should get in this. But I'm comfortable with Netflix. You know how it works. I'm a Netflix member myself, so we know what they're about. The company's a solid company.
Right.
They're here to stay.
Right.
They might start scooping up other online movie houses, or they might get scooped up for, billions of dollars. Great, fantastic. Just, ride the wave and keep it in there.
But just in the volatility side, if you could make $1,500 a day a couple times a week, all good, right?
All day long.
Yes.
Without thinking.
And
it's great because you can trigger it out. So the software TD Ameritrade that we use as a group, it's great. So I have an acting job and I'm not going to be able at my computer and I know there's a lot of volatility going on. Yeah, I'll be safe and say trigger me out after $1.50, and that's it. And then, yes, it will happen. I get triggered out and then it still keeps moving up $3 more. And yes, like, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But you know what? All money is good money.
That's what we say. All right, we got to take a final break here. We're going to come back with Randy Hernandez, talk more about some of his favorite trades, more advanced trades using options and leaps. Back with Randy Hernandez right after this break on Trading Stocks Made Easy.
You're listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Want to learn more about how to trade and invest in the stock market? Visit thewealthyinvestor.net/products. That's thewealthyinvestor.net/products and order the Wealthy Investor's Guide to Stock Market Success audio series. This easy-to-follow 5-CD audio series and manual will teach you the basics of how to buy and sell stocks, how to collect quarterly dividends for life, plus hidden income generating strategies like covered call writing and volatility trading. Start creating financial freedom right now. Get the financial education you need to get ahead. Visit thewealthyinvestor.net/products.
And back with actor, model, stock market trader Randy Hernandez. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, we have just a little bit of time left. Now, you started out covered call writing for the guaranteed income.
Right.
Graduated to volatility trading, meaning buying stocks and programmable trades. We're not day trader in the Wealthy Investor program because most of us have lives outside of trading, but we want that consistent income.
Correct.
Now, at some point, you graduated to advanced strategies, trading options, being an options buyer. And I teach people how to trade leaps, long-term equity anticipation securities, because they're lower risk. You can put a lot of money in those trades, and you're waiting for a small movement in the stock and whammo.
Right.
Your favorite volatility trade on the option side, got to be Apple.
Got to be Apple. Hands down, it's Apple. Mm-hmm. Great company. If you can get into Apple, and even when it splits, it's even better. Great top-line revenue. Everyone knows Apple, actually what they do, of course. So they're moving. It's a stock that's has once been at 400. Is it going to go there again? Absolutely. And this is great. Like you said, less money, bigger returns, less of stress in my mind, where like you have to use your own cash, use the TD Ameritrade's money, and the discipline here is in and out.
Yes, very small profits.
Very small profits.
Very quickly. If you're an options owner, we buy leap options because we have a year to be right about the direction of the market. Yeah. And I always say to everybody, take those fast profits. Don't get greedy.
Right. And it's very easy to get greedy, but that's, I think, the discipline. And I also think that's the fear of people wanting to get into this. Because even for myself, we all get greedy because we know it's a good stock. We know it's a good company. But how you explain it when you take the small profits, how it adds up, you're actually making more by taking the small profits as the stock approaches 150 to 200, and you don't see it because you just want to sit there. Well, remember, it's not your money until you press the button.
That is correct.
So that's really important for people to understand. So I like to now treat it, it's part of my business, it's part of my income, and you have to treat it that way. And I think that's part of the discipline to kind of keep you focused on how this works. So yeah, Apple is the way to go.
Last 24 months, in dollar amounts, some of your best trades. 2,000, 3,000, 5,000.
Oh, yeah. The amounts?
Yeah.
5,000 $7,000, $7,500
in one trade.
In one trade,
right?
In one trade, that was pretty amazing. So that's been, and I have to say that one of them that happened was Tesla.
Is that right?
I think my Tesla, I bought an option on Tesla, and I think I made $8,400 in a matter of like 72 hours.
Now, I remember when you were getting married, there was a trade that paid for your wedding. Wasn't there a trade that paid for your wedding?
I think that was Tesla.
I think it was Tesla, too, where like you guys were paying for the hall, the stock pop, you took the money.
Yeah, it was Tesla. I couldn't believe it. And my wife is she was really interested in it. She's a smart lady, my wife. So she was loving how it worked, like just very fundamental. And she was really into it. And she opened up a TD Ameritrade account and parked some. She closed out one of her accounts and she parked it in there. And I also gave her Tesla too, and simultaneously with mine. So she had made about $8,500, and she couldn't believe it.
Yes,
and that was the same thing. I set a trigger. And still made that kind of money.
Yes. Did you ever in your life, if someone would have come to you 20 plus years ago and said, in addition to your primary career, acting and modeling, you will also be able to make thousands of dollars trading? Would you have trading on the stock market online?
No, I would have lost a bet. If I would have betting guy, I would have lost.
Okay.
Never in a million years would I thought. But it's true. But now it's like when you get financially educated, it's not that hard. There are people actually I met that have been on Wall Street since high school. They didn't even have a college education. They got in on the ground floor at the Wall Street Stock Exchange, and the money that they're making, plus bonuses, which is always intriguing, like, wow. And now with this online technology and learning to, get financially educated with your money, it's I think very feasible for anyone to do this.
I think it's extraordinary. It's the most incredible thing that has ever happened to me in my life.
Right.
And I love teaching and showing other people how to do it. There's somebody listening to this podcast and going, oh, maybe those guys have some special gene.
Right.
What would you say to that person who says, I want to get financially educated, I want to make $5,000, $7,000 per trade? What words of advice would you give them?
Do it. Just open. First thing I think tell people is like the hardest. Open up an online trading account. It's free. There's no obligation. I tell people that I know, just open before you even take your class. Just open one up. Just open it and just see what it looks like. You can actually trade as a fake money. TD Ameritrade offers you can actually trade and learn without doing anything. There's the online tools there. I think just open up an account. First of all, is half the battle, and then take the course, and then just learn about it. You can go online and look at stuff and learn, but you have to get in there with your own stuff, your own money, and really see how it works. The hardest thing is, like I said, it took me 3 months to push the button. Okay. I had a TD Ameritrade account, had money parked in the account, and I couldn't pull the trigger. And then when I finally did, I can honestly say, even my account in my first year. I made 6 figures.
Yes. Isn't it amazing?
And my accountant said, wow, this is your online stuff you made more money online than you were as an actor.
Right.
This year with commercials. I was like, and I didn't believe it.
Right.
Because I really wasn't keeping track of it until the end of the year when you get your printout of all your trades. I just give it to my accountant and she just does all the numbers for me. And I still remember it was $105,000.
Wow.
That I made.
That's fantastic.
And I didn't have to pay Uncle Sam because, I get all the taxes out. So it was great.
Right. And also, we should also say that I don't get an endorsement from TD Ameritrade.
No.
But I just love their trading platform. I think it's great for the beginner.
Right.
And I think the 24-hour customer service support is absolutely super.
Great customer service. Every time I call, they're helpful. They give you their extension to call them back. I've had customer service like, listen, it's my day off, but I'll come back and I'll call you back. Give me a time, and they call you back.
Yeah.
And when you're on the phone with them for 45 minutes, you're thinking don't you have other calls in the queue or something? He's like, nah, it's okay, we're fine. That's really personal customer satisfaction that I think is amazing, honestly. I think it's fantastic. I can really ask dumb questions, and they never make you feel like any question is a dumb question.
Right.
It's always an avenue. It's always great question, let's look at it this way. Or they see my point and got it. Wow, I didn't see it that way. And then we compare notes, which is, maybe I used to think it was a joke. I was like, was this for real? But I'm incredibly happy with them.
Anybody can be successful trading stocks as long as they get that financial education.
As long as you get your financial education and lose the fear. Fear is a big factor. There's nothing to be afraid of, But I remember having constantly $2,500 in a savings account. Like it was my saving money, and I had it for like 3 years, and that $2,500 never moved. I think I got $1.50 a year.
Wow.
And it never moved.
Right.
Because that was my emergency money.
Right.
Now that $2,500 is $15,000, it still hasn't moved. I just trade on it, and that's my emergency money.
As long as the stock goes up $1.
As long as it goes up $1. It's amazing.
That's what
it's
we
amazing.
Love. Hey, listen, we're out of time. That music means I got to get out of here. Thank you so much for being my guest. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
And give us some more of your wisdom as time goes on?
Wealthy Investor for sure.
All right. Thank you, Randy Hernandez, for being here today.
You've been listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on iTunes. While you're on iTunes, be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll automatically receive our next episode.